Welcome to Bible Time. This is the Friday edition. We're doing the Believers Fellowship Daily Bible Reading, but something else going on at Believers Fellowship right now that I want you to be aware of. Tonight, Friday night, is going to be the last night of our virtual missions conference webinars. We've been hearing every night from each one of our missionaries, and I hope that you've been able to join in on those. And tonight's the last one at 7 o'clock. If you have not yet registered, you need to do that. Go to our webpage and do that so that you can join in at 7 o'clock tonight. If you've already registered and you've already watched some previous nights, you're good to go for tonight. You just need to dial in, so to speak. And then Sunday night, we're going to have kind of the final address of the missions conference week. It's going to be from Eric Zeller, and it'll be at 6 o'clock on Sunday night. And so you can tune in and watch that as well. We would encourage you to do that. We're thankful for the missionaries that we get to be a part of at Believers Fellowship. We're thankful for the work that the Lord is doing around the world through these missionaries. And it's just been so encouraging to hear from them this week. We would encourage you to keep listening and keep praying and keep supporting those missionaries. Now today we're coming to 2 Samuel chapters 8 through 10 in our daily Bible reading. And if you just read these chapters, it might just seem like, okay, this is a historical thing. David's going around winning lots of great military victories. He's doing kind things to Jonathan's family. Okay. And it just seems like it's filling in some time and some details of the story of David. But really, there's a whole lot more going on here than you might realize. And it all comes down to a key word, and that word is covenant. Covenants that God made and a covenant that David made. And really appreciate what's going on here. You need to understand those covenants and see that what's happening here is a fulfillment of covenants. For example, when you see in chapter 8, verse 6, it says, the Lord gave victory to David wherever he went. And then you see the same thing down in verse 14. Well, you need to understand that that's the beginning of the fulfillment of the covenant that God made with David just in the chapter previously, chapter 7, the Davidic covenant. Chapter 7, verse 11, he said, I'm going to give you rest from all your enemies. Well, this is how that's being fulfilled. He's getting all these great victories over his enemies so that he has rest from his enemies. This is God fulfilling his covenant with David. And if you look at the territory that David is gaining by his victories in chapter 8, and you see this basically from Egypt all the way up to the Euphrates River, all of that area there, well, then that might make you think about another covenant, the Abrahamic covenant. And back in Genesis 15, all the way back in Genesis, God made a promise to Abraham, and he said, I'm going to give you all of this land. And here that's being fulfilled through the victories of David. So we got fulfillment of the Abrahamic covenant in the amount of land that's being gained. We have fulfillment of the Davidic covenant in the victories from his enemies, the relief that he's getting from his enemies. You're seeing God being faithful to his covenants. That's important to you and me, because God's made a covenant with you and me through Christ. He's made a new covenant. He's made promises to you and me. Can we count on those promises? Well, here's God's track record. Here's where you need to track with him, and you need to understand the message of the Bible and what God is doing. This is more than just, sanctified history. This is written for a purpose. I mean, you're not being told everything. You're being told certain things, and you're being told those things for a reason. In chapter 9, you see David showing kindness to Mephibosheth, who's a descendant of Jonathan. And that's important. In fact, 3 times it uses the word kindness. Verse 1, it uses the word kindness. Verse 3, it actually talks about the kindness of God. Who can I show is there anybody left from Jonathan's family that I can show the kindness of God to? That's what David's asking. And again, in verse 7, it talks about the kindness. I will show you kindness, he says. And the word there is a word that speaks of loyal love, covenant-keeping love. Well, think about it now. Did David make a covenant with Jonathan? Have you been following with us here in the daily Bible readings? Well, then you might remember back in 1 Samuel chapter 20, David and Jonathan did make a covenant because Jonathan knew that David was going to be the next king. Jonathan's the son of Saul. Saul's the king. But Jonathan knows, and it's okay with Jonathan, he knows that David is going to be the next king. And so they made a covenant between themselves that David would be kind to the descendants of Jonathan. And that's what's happening here. And so you see the kindness of David, the loyalty of David. You see David keeping his personal covenants. It's all about covenants here in these 3 chapters that we're reading. And then in chapter 10, it's just an account of another victory of David as the Davidic covenants being fulfilled and getting relief from his enemies, rest from his enemies. But there's that stirring statement there between Joab and his brother Abishai. They're being attacked from both sides, so Joab's going to take some of the men and fight one side, Abishai the other side, and he says, "Hey, if they're too much for you, I'll come and help you," and vice versa, and all that. And then there's this great stirring statement in verses 11 and 12. He says, "If the Syrians are too strong for me, then you will help me. But if the Ammonites are too strong for you, then I will come and help you." Okay, verse 12. Here it is. We're surrounded. We're going to fight our way out of this. So be of good courage, and let us be courageous for our people and for the cities of our God, and may the Lord do what seems good to him. That's a stirring statement there. That's the kind of pep talk you want when you're going into a fight. And actually the word that's translated strong in verse 11, if the Syrians are too strong or the Ammonites are too strong, it's the same word that's translated with the word courage in verse 12. So you could say, be strong, and let us be strong for our people and for our cities and for our God, and may the Lord do what seems good to him. Joab's remembering that the Lord has made promises to Israel, and so all we need to do is be strong. We need to be courageous. We need to act like men, or some of the old translations say you need to play the man here, and we'll see what the Lord will do. And of course, the Lord brought them a great victory. And that's the same for you and me today. The Lord's made promises to you and me. This is why this is so important. The Lord's made promises to you and me. And it may seem like we're overwhelmed by the world, we're overwhelmed by circumstances, but the Lord has made promises to us. He promises to give us strength. He promises to work with us with a strength that's beyond what we could ask or imagine. He promises that he's working within us with the same power that raised Jesus from the dead. And so we just need to believe his promises, be strong and courageous, and do what we're called to do, trusting that the Lord is going to fulfill his promises along the way. So this isn't just like history. We're reading about what David did, the victories he won, the nice things he did. No, it's all about covenants here. And it's all about God's faithfulness to his promises, and we need to be faithful to our commitments as well. So these are great lessons for us to learn, especially on a Friday. So much for us to chew on over the weekend. And we're looking forward to tonight with our missionaries, Sunday morning worship services, and then Sunday night capping off the missions emphasis with the message from Eric Zeller. We're so thankful for all that the Lord is doing. I'm thankful for you. We'll see you next week for more Bible time.